It's the Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Novak. Serving up trending news and conservative views. Brought to you by the Elsa Kurt Collection. And Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
Well, hey there. Slight little change to the intro, just a little. I'm that person that has to move furniture around like every couple of months, just because.
Yeah, I
Get
it.
How are you?
I'm good. Don't let anything stagnate. That's good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right?
Yeah, you can't get too comfortable in life. I like it. It's good. I'm good. How are you?
Exactly. I'm good. I already warned you. I warned Clay, guys, before we started recording on Wednesday. Look at me bringing that right in.
Nice.
I'm discombobulated. So y'all are going to have to bear with me today. I don't know what my problem is. I have no excuses. Just bear with me. I'm like out of sorts. You ever have a day like that? I don't know. Is it supposed to be like a full moon or something tonight? I don't know. I don't even know.
I don't follow nor do I believe in any of that stuff. So I don't the full moon thing and all that. But regardless, we do have we're going to do something a little bit different format wise with the show. Usually we start out with our big topic, the one that we spend the most time on. We're going to flip the show a little bit. We're going to knock out maybe 4 or 5 smaller ones, and then we're going to spend probably the back half of the show talking about the big one. And we'll get started right after this.
Tonight on the Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Novak, from Greta's cosplay crusade to Biolab breaches, from broken trust in science to trans confusion in sports, and yes, riots in the streets. These aren't random headlines. They're coordinated symptoms of a culture that's rejected truth and replaced it with feelings. We're not here to coddle it. We're here to call it out with bold faith, real truth, and absolutely no apologies. And now, it's time for the show.
Oh, such an intense little intro there.
Like
well, we're not starting off intense, right? I kind of like it too. It's kind of fun. We are not starting off intense. We're starting off with kind of like a head shake and a chuckle here, talking about Greta's great adventures or not so great adventures. I have so many mixed feelings about this girl. On one hand, she infuriates me, and I just kind of want to mom smack her upside the side of her head. And then there's the other side that can't help but feeling this sympathy towards her, because I think as a child, she was brainwashed and manipulated and just completely brain warped by the people who are supposed to be having her best interests at heart, and clearly just have used her as a tool, as a weapon, basically. And here we are. And I feel like everybody does know what I'm talking about. But we're talking about Greta's and her merry band of influencers' brilliant idea to take their little flotilla, their influencer flotilla, we're selfie flotilla, right, over to Gaza to bring them some aid because they care so much. And by the way, here they are, just on their very serious, deep, profound mission, because they're such humanitarians, having a great old time taking their little videos and their selfies and all their fun things. It's just, I didn't even bother with the sound because I don't even want to hear them. I just want you to see what their adventure basically look like. I mean, these kids look like they're just going on a little sightseeing tour. This is how you know of their complete lack. There she is. There's Greta. Their whole lack of anything whatsoever. Clay, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so it was a crew of 12, and they had a ship. I can't remember the name of it. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked to find out Greta was 22 years old. I guess she's been that present in the news cycle for long enough that I still thought she was a kid. She still looks like
refer to her as a teenager.
Yeah, she still looks like a child. I truly believe that there's something maybe developmentally wrong with her. I don't, do we still like Asperger's? I don't know if that's still a common use term or not, but I would say she's in that probably high functioning autistic category.
That was always the phrase or the term that was used along with her for as long as she's been in the public eye. And that was kind of like their big, like, I hate to use it, but how dare you moment of like, you can't make fun of her. She has, and yes, then they did call it Asperger's. I don't think they call it Asperger's anymore. I think they just label it as being on the spectrum. But that was like their big talking point. Like, you cannot make fun of this girl, this child, because she has an issue here, a disability. And, now if you say you're just being mean, I don't know, but I truly do think there is something there.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been called mean before, so I'm not really worried about it. But, her plus 11 on a single ship with humanitarian aid to Gaza, and, cross, a portion of the Mediterranean. They got picked up by the Israeli Navy, got boarded, got detained. The amount of aid, it turns out, that was on their little boat was less than a single truckload. Yeah. And on a daily basis, you're talking like 120 trucks full of aid going to Gaza every day. So while I think, I don't think their intentions were good, I don't think they were altruistic. I think truthfully, this was a prop job. This was 100% about, the selfie, about, the press and all of that. So they got boarded, they got detained. There was a rumor that they were forced to sit and watch live footage, and not Israeli footage, but captured footage or footage used by Hamas from October 7th of the atrocities they were committing. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was the rumor. If it's true, I think that's probably one of the best punishments that could ever be levied on them. Then her, along with 3 of the 12, signed deportation orders or allowed themselves to be deported. She's claiming that, or someone advised her that she can do much better outside of Israel, have more effect. So therefore, she signed the deportation order. Funny enough, put her eco-loving little butt on an aeroplane and flew her back to Europe. But the other
should have made her backpack.
The other 8, which somewhere in this 12-person contingent is a EU Parliament member. So there's an elected or an appointed official, governmental official, in this crew. But they sent 4 back. 8 are still sitting in Israel right now, waiting for whatever happens to them next. But this was all a ruse. It was all garbage. I think, truthfully, as much I think that we would have loved to have just seen the Israeli Navy wave at them as they went by and let them dock in Gaza and just see what happens.
Let them do it. Yes. Yeah. They really, I agree. There is a huge part of me that says, should have just let them go. Let them go and see how great it is there, how well received they are, with their selfies. Go ahead, take your selfies with these people. See how well that all turns out for you. But you're exactly right. It was a 59-foot boat. It had less than a single truckload of supplies, like less than a single truckload. And just as the side note, and I don't know, how many people realize this, but the Trump administration backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation successfully delivered more than 8 million meals to Gazans since its operation began less than a month ago. And that's according to the organization. So, comparing Greta's efforts to that. And then again, look at this child's joy at being offered a snack by the big bad Israelis, right? By the big mean bad people. She didn't seem so mad about getting that little snacky snack from them, huh? So I did hear the same thing you did about them being, forced to watch that footage. And I also heard in continuation of that they allegedly, supposedly all turn their backs and refuse to watch. And if that is true at all, if there is truth to that, they are the biggest cowards pieces of garbage on the planet. You absolute garbage cowards, you, if that's the case. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. So I'll look into it more. I'll try and find out if there's any real confirmation of it.
Do not waste your time with this. We should all stop wasting our time with Greta. All of us. Like, this shouldn't have been reported. So right. This shouldn't have been in the news cycle. No one should care. She's a 22-year-old, truthfully mal-raised, probably, and emotionally unstable young lady that needs psychiatric help. And we should stop perpetuating her problem as humanity. Like, we should just get that young girl some help and move on. We've got to stop putting any attention on her and getting her out from in front of a camera. It's terrible. So please, Elsa, don't waste any more time on this.
You know what? I agree with you. You're absolutely right. If you guys want to find out, go find out. I'm washing my hands of this. And it's true. And, as a society, honestly, and I'm throwing myself in it. I've, reported on this already once or twice on my page and all of that stuff. And yes, it is, not only is it giving the attention that they're seeking, and just, platforming them with their absurdities. It's also, when you add that layer of somebody who is not mentally fit. That's like the only way I'm thinking of putting it. I'm sure there's other ways I could have phrased that, but that's the way I'm phrasing it. It is time to kind of like move away from it and not keep feeding into the absurdity, really. So yes, that's it. That's all we're talking about with that girl. We're going to move on to one that makes my stomach do a somersault. I barely can even discuss this just because of that one word right there. I can't do it. But I can. I'm professional, Clay. I got this.
Well, the good news is the worms weren't actually on the plane. So that's the good news. But so there's a trend coming out of the University of Michigan, which is very, very scary. The one that we're talking about initially is, her name is, I'm gonna try this, and this is the only one I'm gonna try because there's two other names that I'm definitely not gonna try. I think this is Cheng Xuan Han, I think is her name. So she is a PhD student at the university in Wuhan. Go figure. And over the course of 2024 and I think into 2025, she sent 4 packages to a colleague at the University of Michigan, where they were received. And those are the worms that we're talking about, right? It's a roundworm, which has the potential to have impact on all kinds of things, U.S. crops and others. But so she was picked up at the Detroit Metro Airport when she landed. She lied to customs, then she lied to the feds, and she lied and she lied and she lied. So the intent, she smuggled these worms through the mailing system. She cleared her phone, her electronic device, 3 weeks before she came to the States, lied upon arrival. And then once she was arrested, she lied some more, and finally it all came out. My question, though, is who, applause to them, but who either turned her in from the University of Michigan, or is this a result of the other 2 Chinese nationals who got busted in connection with the University of Michigan just a week and a half ago?
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, obviously University of Michigan, needs to be looked at under a magnifying glass right now. So, because the obvious question, what's going on here? Why is this happening specifically here? Why is this being allowed to happen? And, the scary thought is, of course, how much has gone undetected? How many things have slipped through that we are not aware of right now? And we've got these, biohazards, just lurking around. So, I feel like it's obvious to say that these people need to be, if they're foreign nationals, right? They're not from this. She's not from this country, correct? She's here on student visas and all of that stuff. Okay, so
I don't even think it was that. I think she was
It's
here
not
on
even.
some. No, I don't know. I maybe a work visa of some kind or something like that. But hers was supposed to be not. She was not on a student visa. She's working PhD work, at the Wuhan University.
Okay.
I think hers might have been even a tourist visa. I don't think I've ever seen it clarified, but it didn't. I think part of the reason that she shipped that stuff is because she didn't want any of that detected. But the incident before this, very similarly related. So you've got a female, again, I'm not going to try and pronounce these names. So you've got a female working at the University of Michigan, Chinese national, right? Who coordinated with her boyfriend who works in a lab in China to send over or smuggle a fungus that definitely affects crops, right? Can be used as a bioterror weapon. So he got nabbed she got nabbed. And then I just wonder if that is what opened up, or gave enough information to the feds to pick up this first one. But yeah, I mean, University of Michigan under a magnifying glass or a microscope, no pun intended, is really like there's something very, very scary going on out of that place.
Yes. Yeah, and you couple that with the knowledge that the fact that China has bought up like an absurd amount of farmland in this country, so listen, I don't know whose responsibility it is to stop this, but they better get the hell on it. Does that fall under my guy there, RFK Jr.? Does that fall under him? I mean, it's kind of like a mixed thing. It's like a defense issue too, because this is, potential bioterrorism.
Yeah, I would say this is cross cabinet. Like you've got some cross departmental coordination that's got to happen. Health and Human Services for sure, Department of Agriculture for sure. You've got Department of Homeland Security. You've got DOD. Like I think everybody plays a little part. A part in this. Either it's lending expertise, or law enforcement implications, defense, terror implications. This has a lot of tentacles to it. But you're right. The fact that there is so much farmland owned by China in the United States now, which several members of Congress are trying to rectify in ways of either limiting, stopping any further purchases, or even eminent domain and taking it back, which would be an interesting move politically. But yeah, this is scary stuff. This is pretty scary that it's on the radar, that it's this blatant, but also that it's tied to a very prominent and well-known university in the United States.
Yes. Yeah. I would imagine, and I'm sure it's already being done, but I'm sure the Trump administration is looking at their funding, what kind of government, anything that they're getting, right? And, hopefully we're going to see some revocation of that. The whole thing is just crazy to me. And I always have to like stop myself a little bit. And I think this is very common for a lot of us. Like when we hear about these things, I want to see something done immediately, like right now, I want to see major action. And the truth of the matter is that there's so much happening government wise behind the scenes. And they're, I do fully believe that they are working on this, as we speak. But yeah, it's really frightening. So,
yeah.
Yep. Well, I think that actually goes right into nicely with since I already brought him up.
Yeah.
we're gonna move right into this guy. And guys, we're kind of going through these a little bit quicker, only because our last topic is, a bigger one. It's such a big topic. So we're moving a little bit quickly here for them. But this is one of the things. Go ahead.
Don't let the media fool you on this. So RFK Jr. fired the entire vaccine advisory council, which I think was in the neighborhood of 12 to 14 people. I don't know if that number's right, but I think I read that somewhere. But he took them all and he fired them. And this is being portrayed as he's an anti-vaxxer, that these are experts in vaccines, that they're, somehow they have a goodness in their heart, altruistic role. These folks on this vaccine advisory council are either lobbyists or owned by lobbyists or owned by big pharma. These are the people who are inside of Health and Human Services, who are advocating for specific vaccines for specific reasons. And if you ever look at I know you spoke about this, I think, a while ago, where the number of vaccines has escalated, like it's increased exponentially in the last 25 years. This yes. advisory council is the reason why, and that's why he got rid of them.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. This is, one of those moves that I've been waiting to see. I'm so glad to see it happening. And of course, the left is, screaming, oh, he's anti-science, No, that's not the case. And these are, by the way, the same people that, pushed a vaccine and denied the existence, the reality of natural immunity in all of those things. So, the motives on these people, as you well stated, not in our best interest, and getting paid on our dime. So you're out of here. He did the old Trump, you're fired routine. I hope he actually did. I would love if he just walked into a big board meeting or whatever and just went, you're fired. Yeah. It's just the little visuals that I like. But this is again.
Yeah, there was an interesting quote that kind of results. Somebody was asking him about this, about firing this committee, about getting rid of all of them. And then about, I guess HHS is going through a little bit of a rehiring of certain people that they've already let go. He's the first government official I have heard say this, but he said, as a result of Doge, right? All of the people that got fired as a result of Doge, he said, we knew that we were going to make mistakes and that we would have to rehire about 20% of the people we fired. We knew that going in as a result of the Doge cuts. It was not surprising to him, totally anticipated, which we've seen across other departments. He is the first one, he's the first lead, I think, that has said that out loud. And I thought that was really, really interesting, that it kind of got tied in with this firing of the Vaccine Advisory Committee, but he did say it out loud.
Interesting. Do you think that, along with everything else, that the financial purposes of doing that and just the logical reasons for doing that, do you think part of that also involves trying to rebuild the public trust? Because, to state the obvious, public trust in all of these government organizations is, at a -0. So, and I can speak for myself personally. If it's coming from the government, I don't trust it. It's a flat out no, thank you. And there's so much work ahead to be able to rebuild that trust. Do you even think that it's possible?
Yeah, I do. And I think that this is part of it. And I think you're starting to see it in the media as well. If you saw ABC, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who interviewed President Trump from ABC on his 100th day, it was the 100-day interview, 100 days in office. Over the weekend, he made a tweet on X, an X post, whatever, right. Where he talked about the president and he called him, he said something derogatory about him. I didn't think it was really that big of a deal, but he called him a world-class hater or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, right. Stephen Miller, he was calling a world-class hater.
Yeah, right. So then he deleted it. He deleted the tweet, but of course, the internet it does what it does. Somebody caught it, somebody reposted it, and then he got suspended and then got fired. The reaction from inside of the media is very much hey, listen, we're all struggling within the media to regain the trust of the American public. And, it sucks that he got fired, but this is what has to happen in today. And this is coming from people inside of mainstream media, is we can't do this anymore. We have to regain the trust of America, and having stuff like this happen, we can't tolerate. And I think to your point with RFK, I think it's the same thing. I think all of the Doge firing was literally cut away all of the stuff that we don't know whether we need it or not. And if we we do need it, then we'll bring back what we need. But eventually, we'll get to the core of cutting away what we don't need. So, we talked about doing it surgically versus kind of the cut, slash and burn. And I think what he's addressing is the slash and burn that they did. And that was cut 80%. And we'll probably have to bring back 20% anyway. But they knew that going in. So I think that you are going to see that and continue to see that in the government, but you're also going to see it in the media for the exact same reason.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I wish the media luck in doing that. I know I can say right now and for the very far foreseeable future, that's not going to change for me. They are never going to be my first source for information. They're actually going to be the counter source, of the, all right, well, what is the left saying, and just to have it for reference, just to know what they're saying, but to take them with any sort of authority or trustworthy source for any information. And it's only going to get worse and harder. And it already is that case, obviously, with AI and manipulated videos and manipulated images and all of those things. I mean, we're in big trouble because nobody trusts anybody, and they don't trust us either, Clay. If I post something, on there, fake news, it's not even real. And if the audio doesn't sync up like so perfectly, which, guys, sometimes that happens, especially when you're resharing and re-uploading things, the audio and video don't always sync perfectly. They're like, it's fake. It's AI. It's like, oh, I mean, I can't even argue. You can't even. And the amount of checks you have to go through yourself to make sure, like, I almost shared, you'd be so proud of me. I almost shared something. It was a meme. And it might be accurate now at this point, but it was something, maybe you've seen it, supposedly, that Kamala Harris posted for a new graphic. And it's the
2028. Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yes. And I ran it through AI. Sorry, guys. And asked, did she really post this? Because I didn't see it anywhere. I'm not saying that she didn't. I still don't know. You can yell at me in the comments if you know. But I found it very hard. I'm like, she's not the brightest bulb in the box, but I'm not really sure she'd post that. So you guys know, it came back with no, by the way, it came back with, at that point in time, which was yesterday, it came back with nowhere that, we searched was this image on any of her things. So whatever, but it makes it really difficult. So I applaud, I continually applaud RFK Jr. For making those efforts and not just efforts, actually following through and doing things that he said he was going to do. And I hope that continues. And I hope we see the results of that soon.
Well, we're going to get back. We're going to touch more on, trusting the media in our final segment, because they're playing a big role in that. But, right now, you and I have said it a number of times that independent journalism and truthfully, things going out on social media are telling the truth more so than the mainstream media. And sometimes people tell on themselves, right? And so we had a little, you and I talked about this before we recorded last week, folks. We recorded on Wednesday. Thursday, the show came out, but also Thursday morning, there was this spat that broke out between President Trump and Elon Musk, right? And it brewed for, probably about 4 days, like at a high boil, and then it kind of tapered off. And then, now we've got that sort of Elon apology. He claimed that the president was in the Epstein files and threatened to shut down SpaceX, and it got off the rails very, very quickly. But it was all done in real time, and it was all done from their verified accounts, right? So, when we're watching these things happen, there isn't even time for the media to react. We're all getting at the same time as the media. We all do our own interpretation. And we're seeing news happen real time with no filters. So this is kind of where we're at in the cycle. I'm glad this one has tapered off. I know there was a lot of people who immediately went to, oh, it's a conspiracy. They planned it. This is on purpose. This is so they could expose the Epstein files and blah, blah, and all kinds of stuff. I don't know how true any of that is. I thought it was just two egos crashing into each other in real time. And so it is what it is. But we had another one just in the last 48 hours.
Back to back. Yes. Back to back craziness. Simone Biles really stepped in a big pile of you know what. I don't know what this girl was thinking. She clearly did not run these statements through her PR team to get approval. She went on attack. She went after Riley Gaines, basically called her a bully, and then went on to body shame her and essentially say that she looks like a man. So that obviously did not go over well. And as you said before, the internet does what the internet does. And it found like almost immediately past statements from Simone Biles, her testimony against, I forget the guy's name, maybe you'll remember his name, but
Larry Nassar.
Thank you, for his abuses against women in gymnastics and the sports and everything. And that she testified against that. And, the irony, the hypocrisy of her statements. And it just came right back and blew up right in her face. And then, now this actually surprised me. Tell me if this surprised you. She actually did backpedal and apologize. I think it was a crappy apology, much like Elon's, which I'll go back to that one in just a minute too. But, these crappy apologies, it was long-winded. It was very PR done, right? Like, I'm sorry I said those things, but, when you add but, it's not an apology. The minute you add but, it's kind of like a backhanded apology, right? My husband says I'm very good at the backhanded apology. I'll say something. I don't do this anymore, guys. Okay. Don't come for me. Something like, well, I'm sorry that you got hurt. Your feelings hurt by, that's not really an apology. That's a backhanded apology. And that's kind of what both of them did. And Elon's apology, nowhere in it was the word, I apologize or I'm sorry. It was, basically, I made some regrettable statements. And it was kind of like, that's the end of it, So I don't know. So, yeah. All right, we'll stay on here for 1 minute. Do you think Trump should have or should accept his apology? He did, as to the best of my knowledge, he accepted the apology, and that was kind of the end of it.
I don't think it'll die until we see the two of them in the same room. I think there will always be, whether real or fabricated, there will always be tension between the two of them. Because Trump doesn't let stuff like this go. So we're going to have to see them in the same place, smiling and shaking hands before anybody believes that they're, gone and forgotten. So I think he should. And I think he should specifically because I think it's in the best interest of the United States for the two of them to get along. I think it's in the best interest of global space exploration for the two of them to get along. So I think President Trump, the two of them need to iron this out. I think President Trump will probably invite him to the White House or to Mar-a-Lago, and they'll figure it out between the two of them. But this thing with Simone Biles and Riley Gaines started because Riley Gaines made a comment in true form about the Minnesota softball team that we talked about last week, right? That this boy pitched for them and won them the state championship, and Riley Gaines said something about it because that's her platform. I mean, literally it is. That was her and the Leah Thomas thing. That's what she's been living for the last 4 years. And so she said something, and then Simone Biles said something back. And then, she made a comment about, you should probably pick on somebody
your own size or something.
Which was, interestingly enough, a man. And then Riley Gaines comes back and goes, I'm 5'5" and 135 pounds. And, and really Riley Gaines, I thought, did a very good job throughout this, keeping her composure and giving Simone Biles tons and tons of credit along the way. The things that she's done, the things that she's accomplished until, and you brought it up, the Larry Nassar comments. I thought Riley Gaines probably went a little bit far, dragging that into this. It's a super, super sensitive topic.
Right.
And it was probably a little bit much, but relevant. So I don't falter totally, but it was, that's like sticking your finger on a hot burner kind of thing. But you're right. Simone Biles did come back. She did apologize. It was a very PR written apology.
Yeah.
And then Riley Gaines turned around and said, well, if you apologize, then why don't you join me in this fight to protect women's sports? And that's kind of where we're at right now, because I don't think Simone Biles responded to that one.
No, and she probably won't. I mean, that, kudos to Riley on that as well, because now you really pushed her into a corner, and Simone has put herself in an incredibly uncomfortable spot now, because now the left, or, who were applauding her for going after Riley Gaines, are now, throwing daggers at her. They are livid that she apologized. And, they're saying, I took a scroll through the X comments there, and they are vicious,
really?
Which we know that this is what vicious. Yeah, they are going at her hard. That is unacceptable. Their middle ground is not allowed. You cannot ever, come to a place of agree to disagree. Not for the extreme left. They will never accept that. They'll never accept civility and respect and all of those things. They want blood. They want tears. They want doxing. They want canceling. They want all of the things. And so now the right is viewing Simone Biles as, just basically a hypocrite and a fool, essentially, and not somebody to look to for anything whatsoever. And now the left also can't stand her at the moment. So I would say, to sum it up, I would say it really sucks to be her right now. And her smartest bet is probably just to lay very low for a little bit, let it die down, let somebody else make a fool of themselves and take the heat off of her. And she won't have to wait long. I mean, this happens on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. And let's be honest, people truthfully only care about gymnastics every 4 years. So as long as she keeps her mouth shut for a while, nobody's going to think about her until the next Olympics rolls around and they go, hey, how old is Simone Biles? Is she competing again? Because, she keeps doing that every once in a while. She quits and then she comes back.
Right.
But if she shuts up now, it'll be, 3 years before anybody even thinks about her again. So, the whole thing's crazy. And I applaud Riley Gaines because she has stayed in this. She's paired herself to Charlie Kirk. For those that don't know, she is on the Turning Point, world tour, with him, and good for her. And she's doing a great job of fighting for women's sports, as a whole. So, that was,
she's a wonderful speaker. I really enjoy watching her
put together. Yeah.
Extremely well. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect pairing her with Charlie Kirk doing that there. I've seen them both. I've seen those on the campuses and everything. And again, she's so composed. She's so knowledgeable. She's on point. Again, the way she handled this with Simone. Yeah, she definitely did fight some fire with some fire. But I feel like she did it in a really classy way, really on point, calling out the things that she said and the hypocrisy of it, and, not letting her get away with it, and not being, ruffled by it at all. She just kind of had that, wow, really, mentality about it all. Great job. I think she's a great example, a great role model for all of that. And, Simone Biles, man, I don't know what you're thinking. And people made some really, a really great point on there. Well, Simone never had to compete against a biological male in her sport. And if she did, she probably wouldn't have those gold medals, and she probably wouldn't be saying what she's saying now. So, real easy to talk from that glass house of yours.
Yeah.
She got hit hard.
And USA Gymnastics just pulled down their entire transgender athlete policy from their website. And it is I don't think it's been said out loud whether it's being removed completely or it's just being revamped. But, interesting timing. As soon as this started, they jumped on their website and it got washed away. It got brushed off. So their transgender policy disappeared. It hasn't been reestablished or reposted, but there is word out there that they are reconsidering their entire policy when it comes to transgender athletes. So we'll see what happens out of that. But again, honestly, 3 years, then somebody will care. But until then, outside of the Olympics, truthfully, nobody really pays attention. So, it's one lucky thing for Simone Biles. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of things to distract us besides that.
Oh, yes. Oh, plenty of things, nonstop things to distract us. And I think that is bringing us to our biggest topic of the evening, right? Let's talk about it. My goodness. I mean, such deja vu, isn't it, Clay? It's like, it's such deja vu. It's their go-to.
Remember, if we're old enough to remember, Rodney King, right? 1992, which was for, you and I are of the right age group where we were in our really key, late teens, early 20s window kind of thing. And it was, that was impactful on us because it was televised, and you can hearken it back to the race riots in the late 60s and some other things. But, LA was a mess. LA was on fire. I still remember the Korean grocers who have come up in the last few days, by the way, on the rooftops of their grocery stores, with rifles defending their businesses. And now we've got a very similar situation. You could call it similar to those riots. What was that? 92. And then, similar to George Floyd just a few years ago. But this is different because it's a different crowd. It's a different crowd of people. Right. Truthfully, in the last two, it's been a lot of African Americans, a lot of blacks across the spectrum. But in the George Floyd, whatever it was a couple of years ago, there's a lot of suburban white housewife, kind of people involved with that one. This is densely Hispanic, Latino, Mexican predominantly, but also a lot of, white liberal types joining in. So it's got a different feel to it, although it looks very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one, of course, the irony of this one that we're all watching in real time is the waving of specifically Mexican flags, of people who don't want to be deported back to Mexico, but they're waving Mexican flags and saying F the USA. And so, it's one of those make sense. Yeah. Right. And you can't. There is no making sense of this because this is orchestrated. This is instigated. This is encouraged. This is allowed by the ruling class of California. And, you have people like Maxine Waters saying idiotic thing. When is this woman going to just go away? But take a listen.
Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that
the few incidents, the few minor incidents, they're no big deal. And let's not talk about the pallets of cinder blocks being dropped off, and let's not talk about the looting and rioting that's going on, and let's not talk about the bricks and everything being thrown at police cars, and let's not talk about the burning down of everything in sight. Let's not talk about any of those things. Let's it's not happening. It's not happening. We're just making it up. Don't believe your own eyes. Believe what Maxine Waters tells you, because she is the one who knows what's going on, not us, not the people on the ground taking this video footage. None of those people, right? I mean, oops, sorry. Don't pay attention to any of that. You're just making it up, Clay.
and she's not alone. That we talked about the media, and it's hard to believe the media, and the media is chiming in. We're back to the mostly peaceful protests, like during George Floyd. We've got AOC. There was another dumb one today by her. I think it was today. It might have been yesterday, but it was like, it was deemed as like a few kids throwing rocks. So you've got that, but then you've got, the truthfully responsible adults who are supposed to be responsible adults. You've got Gavin Newsom, who's the governor, and you've got, Mayor Karen Bass, who's the mayor of LA, and those two. So in a longer term policy decision issue, now we can go back decades, but let's just talk in the most recent terms. Newsom is responsible for sanctuary city policy. He's you can go back to COVID and figure out how much of a jackass he is. But he is responsible for these types of policies within the state of California, right? This happens to be mostly in Los Angeles right now, which means it lands on Karen Bass's desk because she's the mayor. And they're both not just denying this, they're advocating for these things to happen. And they're allowing, they're sympathetic, right, to the violent activities, even to the point of, Gavin Newsom submitted a lawsuit against President Trump for activating the National Guard. And we can talk about that more, but, they tried to put an injunction in against, bringing the National Guard in to stop this and protecting federal law enforcement. Because that's really what the genesis of this is, that federal law enforcement, ICE, was in Los Angeles County, the greater area, and they were conducting, arrest operations, raids and whatnot. And people got upset and they surrounded and attacked an ICE detention facility. And then they started attacking convoys, and then they started attacking police cars. And then, and it just grew and grew and grew beyond the scope and capacity of the LA police and the LA County Sheriff's Department. So, and Newsom sat there on his thumb and he didn't do anything. And Karen Bass advocated for all this. And, it was the summer of love. They're just expressing their, anger and, blah, 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 blah. And we're siding with the immigrants. Okay, fine. Except for the fact that it's not peaceful. There's nothing peaceful about this at all. Even from the very beginning, there was nothing peaceful about this from Jump Street.
Yes, absolutely. And, violence is always the go-to with them. So, and it was caught in real time. And the simple fact of the matter that everyone should be, of course, paying attention to is the fact that the governor and the mayor of that state refused to protect the law keepers. That's a big deal. That's a problem. Because if the law keepers decide, well, we're just going to let you go. Just do whatever you want. That call would come a lot sooner than later. But you know what? I take that back, actually. I take it back. Clearly, the call wouldn't have come. They would rather their citizens, their people, lose their livelihoods, lose their homes, lose their lives, potentially, all because they're just mostly peaceful protests and they just need to express themselves. that is basically them saying, we want this. We want absolute anarchy and destruction and chaos and all of these things to happen, because there's no other way to look at it. They're allowing it. They're saying this is okay. We see the video footage. It's not AI, guys. It's real. And to call it isolated incidents and all of these things, again, the term of the decade probably for these people is gaslighters. They are such gaslighters, but you can't do it anymore. There are too many independent journalists, people who are out there with their phones and their cameras, and they're recording it and they're uploading it and they're sharing it, and we're all seeing it, and the people that are there are living it. So I don't know who they think they're gaslighting, at this point. I mean, there's definitely people that are buying what they're selling, but it's just crazy.
I've seen some shocking opinions on some of this. Very early on when President Trump, said he was going to activate the National Guard, I saw people saying, well, I can't believe, I thought the GOP was for states' rights and the state should be allowed to handle this. Well, here's the problem is that's federal law enforcement that's under attack, and you've got a governor who's not doing anything about it. So the president has a responsibility to take care of that, right? Oh, by the way, it didn't take a genius to figure out that this was going to escalate the way that it did. And the theory that bringing in the National Guard has escalated this, the National Guard was, 2 or 3 days. This had been going on for 2 or 3 days before the National Guard even showed up. So that doesn't hold water either. And then, the Marines have been, if you've ever been 29 Palms is about 2 hours or so from LA in the middle of the friggin' desert. And it is, and I was stationed at an Army base that was not far from there. And it's two of the most miserable places on the planet to be stationed in the military. And so, they alerted 2-7 Marines, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, and have moved them to LA, but they have not been employed yet. Understand that they are there, but they have not been put into play yet because cooler heads are prevailing, and they're saying, okay, this has the potential to escalate. Because let me tell you something, when they unleash those Marines, it's going to get very interesting very, very quickly. Now, everybody, LA police, LA sheriff is all using non-lethal. No one in the middle of all of this, which is still baffling to me, has been shot with a real bullet. Nobody on either side.
Absolutely amazing.
Right.
It's really amazing.
There have been a few reporters who have caught some non-lethal rubber bullets, some sandbag rounds. Yep. There's a lot of footage of that.
Yeah, what I saw was the Australian reporter. Yes. She got pegged right in the leg, I think.
Yep. Yeah. I saw another one. A reporter took a couple of rounds right to the chest. And yeah, so this thing is not. It's escalated, but I would tell you it was going to escalate anyway. I would tell you that bringing in the National Guard in the timing that they did was appropriate. I think holding back the Marines is the right, kind of, scheme of maneuver at this point. But, there have been some indicators in the midst of all of this. The Walmart heiress, right, has posted some things where she has basically outed herself as being responsible for funding part of this. There is money. There was the pick. You've seen, I'm sure, the pickup truck that pulled up and a bunch of riot shields were offloaded and handed to the crowd. We showed the bricks and the cinder blocks all being pre-positioned, right? One, that all takes money, right? And it all smells like Soros. And then it all takes coordination, right? So this is not haphazard. This is not, we thought of it 2 hours ago kind of things. This
wasn't a grassroots reaction. This was an orchestrated, planned everything, right?
And it's blowing into, right? It's already started this Saturday, which is supposed to be the demonstrations across the country on No King's Day. Which is what they're calling it, right? All of these, protests and parades, but it's already escalating and starting in the major cities, right? It's already reported in Chicago. It's already reported in New York, where the riots started last night. The demonstrations started last night. They weren't even supposed to start until Saturday, but in reaction to what's going on in LA, the rest of the country is amping up. So we've got George Floyd kind of stuff going all over again. And it's going to be a wild, wild weekend across the United States.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. And, this is all about optics for them. They want this. They don't care about any of the people. They don't care about the cause. They don't care about any of it. And I'm talking about, of course, the people who are funding all of this, just like they did all of the other ones. They care about what the optics are, that this is Trump's fault. Look what happened on his watch. He couldn't even control his country. Everything fell apart on his watch. And, this is COVID 2.0, basically. Well, we can't get them to buy into another manufactured virus. So we're just going to burn everything. We're just going to cause absolute chaos and destruction and all of that. And, you're dealing with a different Trump now. Perfect example, National Guard, Marines, they're all on the ready. This should be, and I believe it will be, dealt with swift action. And I hope that's what he's going to do. I hope there's no hesitation on it, because you can't allow this. It cannot be allowed. You have to protect the innocent citizens in these cities who are, there was that one video, the heart just infuriated and broke my heart. It made me so angry. It was a young Black woman. She gets out of her car and she's trying to reason with these jackasses that are blocking the road and not letting people pass through. And she's trying to tell them, I need to get to work. My son, all those, like, oh, boo-hoo, you have to go to work.
Yep.
Just, I've said it to you before, Clay. I pray that I never am a person in my vehicle being blocked by these people. It won't end well. Yeah. And I can promise that. So I pray very hard that I will never have to face that. But that poor woman and everyone in those situations, they're just trying to live. And these idiots are doing this.
Yeah, that actually happened in Chicago last night. Very first night of riots in Chicago. And there was a car that, the police were trying to wave the car down. They were trying to direct it and I don't know who was driving it because it never stopped. But they tried to keep it going in one direction. And it was like, nope, I got to go that way. I don't care if there's people there or not. And they made a left-hand turn right into the crowd, bumped a few people, knocked them over, kept right on driving. And I know that they, in California, they shut down. I don't know if it was the 101 or the 110, but they shut down. I think it was the 101. They shut down for about a half an hour, one of them, the highways through the city. And again, that's who they're impacting. They're impacting the regular people that live in Los Angeles, trying to go to and from work. And that's who gets affected. I'll be honest with you. I struggled with this. I am very much in the mindset, or have been, to just let it burn. But it's those people that suffer the most, right? Yeah. It would be very nice if we could collectively back off, and just tell Newsom and Bass, hey, this is your problem. And then, tell Border Patrol, hey, move into Nevada, move into, Arizona. Don't let anybody in or out, that kind of thing, and just make Los Angeles, Southern California, an island. But we can't do that. I mean, I wish we could, but we can't.
Same.
I think the best thing any governor could do right now is encourage, even offer incentives. If you're in a state that's got the room and maybe you've got some opportunities for employment, is maybe an incentive program to move businesses and people to move to your state. That are honestly looking for opportunities. But again, that's not going to work either. So, this thing is going to run through the weekend, mostly because of this No Kings protest on Saturday. And I expect the LA stuff to peak probably tomorrow night and then taper off. But at the same time as it tapers off, you're going to see it go up in the other major cities. And it's just going to be a mess. I really, really hope that Saturday in Washington, D.C., that there is not an issue. And for those of you that aren't aware, Saturday is the big 250th Army birthday parade, the military parade through downtown Washington, D.C. And listen, folks, I don't like it. I think it's bad optics. I think, there's a lot of other things we should be spending money on, like, there's problems with barracks maintenance and living conditions for soldiers and defense and all this other stuff. I think that the parade in DC is probably a bad call, but that's my personal opinion. What I really don't want is for one of these protests, these violent protests, to spill over into that event in Washington, DC on the same day. That would be a horrible, horrible thing for the country, not just the people directly involved. It will look very bad. So let's all keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully this thing de-escalates and doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, it's once again scary times, and I hope nobody misses the irony that it's always in the summer. It's always how polite of them to wait till the summertime when the sun is shining and it's beautiful out, and never happens in the wintertime, does it? It hasn't. I mean, I feel like it has not. Right?
No joke. Listen, we used to talk about this. Afghanistan, it was a big thing. We called it the fighting season. Like the wintertime, everything down. No joke, because the altitude and the harshness of the winters in most places. So like around late October and into November, you would start to see enemy activity go down. And then like in late February and early March, it would start coming back up again. And that was the fighting season. You're right. It has everything to do with the weather. And it's the same thing here. Like nobody likes to protest when it's sleeting outside.
Nope.
It's just not.
Nope, they don't. They're like, they go home. They're like, oh, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't make it for this one. Yeah, because you're dealing with a percentage of the people that are doing this are paid to be doing these. These are paid actors, not actors, but you know what I mean. Paid to do these things and to cause this kind of chaos. Then you have, of course, the legitimate ones, your illegal aliens protesting, and then you have your virtue signaling white liberals. You gather this crazy mosh of people, and the one core thing that they have in common is that they're unhinged, and they're easy to manipulate and they're easy to use for these purposes. So, it just creates a perfect, horrible storm. And of course, that's where we're at. And, I pray for our law enforcement across the country as they gear up and to prepare for this and to deal with these incidents. Just God bless them and God keep them and their families who are, rightfully very concerned right now and really dreading this coming weekend. So if you know one, you love one, think some good thoughts for. If you're not a praying kind, think some good thoughts for them and let them know that you're thinking of them. But we did it, Clay. We did all of the topics. We're good, man. It's like we're professionals or something.
We've been doing this for almost 2 years now.
yeah. August is going to be our 2-year mark, isn't it?
August will be 2 years. Yeah. But let us know if you kind of, what you think of this kind of big topic on the back half. This is a little bit change of format. Just let us know if you like it better this way or if you like it the other way. And, we always appreciate the feedback and the comments from everybody.
Absolutely. I'll say my piece, which is I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, a very safe, happy, fun, healthy weekend. Happy Father's Day to you, Clay, and all the dads out there. And that's kind of it for me. You go ahead and sign them off, sign them out, check them out, whatever. I don't know.
No, Elsa said it. Everybody be safe this weekend. There is a lot of craziness going on. And so, be safe. I do plan on, enjoying my Father's Day. I'm going to spend it with, kids and my dad and my family. And we're going to do what Novaks do. And we're going to go, do the American thing and go shoot guns. Be safe this weekend. And, if nothing else, remember in the back of your head, if you get in a tight spot, keep moving, keep shooting.
Take care.
Warrior, leader, author, patriot. From ranger school to the battlefield, from the front lines of combat to the front lines of culture, retired Lieutenant Colonel Clay Novak isn't done fighting for truth. Catch him on the Elsa Kurt Show and read his no-holds-barred blog at claynovacauthor.com. Keep moving, keep shooting.
If you've ever looked around and thought, this isn't normal and it sure isn't biblical, you're not alone. And guess what? You're not crazy, you're discerning. That's why I wrote Truth Bombs and Grace Grenades, a bold, unapologetic book for believers who are done being silent while the world screams lies. From gender confusion to political idolatry, from woke theology to spiritual apathy, we're hitting it all straight on, straight up, and backed by scripture. This isn't a rage-fueled rant, it's a rally cry, a wake-up call to stop apologizing and start boldly living out the gospel. Whether you're a new believer or a disillusioned disciple trying to find your footing again, this book is for you. It's packed with truth bombs, grace-filled strategies, and practical tools to help you speak truth with love, raise warriors, not worriers, dismantle lies with biblical clarity, and rebuild with grit, grace, and gospel power. The culture doesn't need more compromise. It needs courageous Christians. So if you're ready to push back against the chaos with bold faith and real truth, grab your copy of Truth Bombs and Grace Grenades on May 6, 2025. Let's shake things